Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Patrick with another episode of RevTalks. Today we're here with Alexander. How's it going, Alexander?
Good, good, Patrick.
Of course, thank you for joining on. I appreciate it. So walk me through a little bit initially about the company.
Sure, sure. Thanks so much. So I'm currently a founding partner at InoSwift Venture Studio. A venture studio builds and invests in their own ideas. And the past 2 years as well, we've been acquiring companies and growing them as well. We work primarily in life sciences and tech, and we've recently been dabbling more into deep tech.
Nice, nice. And so that being said, what do you guys currently do for services or products? What's kind of like the main mission here, just simply put, for somebody who's maybe not in your space, who doesn't really know exactly what that means, deep tech, things like that. Just kind of throw some terms out there as well.
Sure, sure. As everyone knows, there's quite a bit of new innovations coming out every day. Drugs, therapeutics, new types of innovative technologies such as sustainable batteries or new types of propulsion or engines. And InnoSwift comes to bridge the gap between traditional incubators, venture capital, and companies. Some companies in our portfolio are not even startups. So if you think about it, if you develop a new therapeutic or you have a breaking AI, you're going to need funds. You're going to need funds to build the tech. You're going to need funds for marketing, maybe brand specialists, regulatory, if it's really complicated. And we have a lot of those resources in house. We built a special team. The InnoSwift studio model is one of its kind. And what we do is partner with companies on an equity rev share basis to achieve certain milestones, whether they're revenue, getting an FDA approval, or getting them a certain strategic partnership or exit.
Sweet. So it's really a partnership that you're sort of proposing these businesses that you help out and service, right?
Correct. Yeah, we own the equity stake in the businesses, or we built it in house and allocate people and partners in. We're 381 people strong at this point.
Nice. And so when you say you're one of the founders, what kind of position are you exactly within the company?
I'm a managing partner, so I kind of act a little bit of venture capitalist, doing a lot of analytics, and then I spend a lot of my time doing business development, partnerships, strategizing, which portfolio companies make sense for the next steps. A lot of times when you have your own company and you're starting out from scratch, you want strategic partners who will be your customer or amplify your capabilities or reach. So we try really hard to complement the different companies, whether they're a SaaS company focusing on sales, right? Or it's a drug discovery technology that uses quantum computing and AI to help validate what we're building at other drug companies.
Sweet, sweet. And so there's different initiatives for different companies. There's different projects and different options that different companies have to actually deal with, and you're managing that and sort of overseeing what has to get done within that specific initiative to then like scale them and then obviously take them to the next level. So when you guys meet with them and you guys actually partner with them and you take equity, how long is that engagement? Because obviously you guys are positioned better than some sort of agency or firm that would maybe charge a retainer or like a couple $1,000s or 10, 20, $30,000 for the services or some consulting firm. You guys are actually taking equity. So how do you sort of like shift from the retainer model or service model to equity model and like partnership, and how do you balance that?
That's a good question, actually. It kind of brings me back to why I founded InnoSwift. My entire career has been in drug development, primarily in pharma and biotech. I founded a research firm 7 years ago. And when you're selling services, whether you're an agency or I guess an R&D firm, you're looking for clients who are willing to engage with you and pay you for what you're asking for, and they find a need and a value in what you have. What ends up happening is the clients that need you the most don't necessarily find you. And when you think of an investor, they put skin in the game, but they don't stand shoulder to shoulder with you. A lot of times you raise funds or take revenues and you're directly diluting yourself to your vendor shareholders, recruiter fees. And, it's hard to know if a marketing agency is really going to deliver results unless they stand shoulder to shoulder with you. In fact, some of the more successful agencies I've seen recently started adopting the hybridized model. And some software agencies where they might charge you a retainer, but the rest is on a rev share. So the equity based model, I also found out that people aren't married to the companies or interested in seeing them grow, right? When you're a consultant or a contractor. Here, we're building, high performance, well known KOL teams, key opinion leaders that can actually shape the product, whether it's to go to public market, to get acquired, or just have profitable recurring annual revenues. So when I founded InoSwift, I noticed no one was quite focusing on that. You might find some sweat equity individuals, but no one's corralling senior executives, regulatory experts, wizards of tech development to do that. But by taking on this model, we're way more selective, right? I probably reject 95% of my inbound business, not because we don't have a good funnel, but you just have to be highly selective on what you work on. When you're working on a drug, once something's in clinic, a lot of times it fails not because it's not clinically significant, but because of operational issues and money. So we decouple risk from money for drug development by 85% or more. And then when it comes to software development or go to market for agencies, services, we try to generate revenues and strategies within 90 days because we take an equity rev share model. We're standing shoulder to shoulder with you, which means we don't make money until you make money.
Definitely. And what are some ways that you guys actually go about the specific marketing or being a partner with them? So we know how you guys obviously partner with them, the kind of the model. How do you go about fulfilling for your services? Are you placing specific teams or BDRs within the actual, business or company for initiative to grow it? Or how are you kind of like actually tactically fulfilling for the services?
Honestly, like I said, we hand built a pretty large team. So some of our firms are consulting firms. And we have 9 external strategic partnership companies like project management offices, universities, but we're not playing headhunter recruiting. People who are high performance and good at what they do, they're hungry for the right opportunities. So we set up our SEO and AEO well before the term AEO was kind of a thing. And we focused on organic, scientifically validated content. So we started organically rising a long time ago. And then the other organizations I founded or exited, won awards or had high exposure. So I think one thing I wish I could tell my younger self is really focus on your brand positioning, not the what's the sexiest name or what's the biggest fanciest client in your space, but your actual brand positioning. Really think about your mission and your focus. So right now, I partner with a few registered broker dealers. A lot of people raise money for their companies and they can't hit their target. So we have a standardized playbook where it's like, okay, if we're doing go to market, commercialization, mergers and acquisitions, or clinical trials or regulatory, we have buckets of equity, right? And we initiate a discovery phase with companies we like and determine like what can we actually deliver them and what is that worth? And it ends up being a mix of equity and rev share. Now, I mentioned a lot about the equity rev share because it's a uniquely different model for an organization like this. But we do infuse cash. Actually, we do quite a bit of venture debt for companies. Most people don't know how to navigate debt beyond a credit card or a personal loan or a mortgage. And being comfortable and mitigating risks with debt is actually sometimes better than raising investors or growing slowly using debt, and it kind of wipes out some of the taxes and improves your credit, which is better to exit your company that way, right? If you paid off all your bills, you're growing your stable profit margin, that's a great business to buy. So we like to transition our organizations from let's go to market, big VC, big series A, B, C, D, IPO acquisition to how can we be profitable? How can we bootstrap on an 8, 9 figure level? How can we make you a functional, sustainable private equity asset? If a public company wants you, they'll be able to get you anyways.
Absolutely. Like that's more long-term focused. And I think it's definitely something that like you are using for sort of better partnerships. And it's a different model for sure. Um, it it does seem like you have to do a lot for the fulfillment side of things because obviously each company you take on is its own company. And if you partner with them, especially with equity, you want to make sure they're getting the best results and just blowing them up, to the moon in terms of scalability and things like that. So at any given
That's
time, you have a lot of companies that you guys are helping out and that are in the portfolio. So how do you go about managing, obviously as a partner, every single one? What are some red flags that pop up on a daily or weekly basis that you have to look out for? What are some things that you do to actually organize yourself, thought process, the companies, the portfolio to be as successful as humanly possible?
that's definitely a challenge, right? When you're dealing with 50 plus companies, 40 4 exits, and not all of them, like some of them are very stable cash flowing and others are just anything makes or breaks a company. How do you manage that? Uh, the best analogy I have some days is you feel like taking your laundry out of the dryer and not putting it in a basket and you decide to carry it all and you don't want that sock to fall while you run down the hallway. It feels like that, but you have to be disciplined. You have to be well organized. I've had a business partner tell me you're too organized, but not in the OCD way. It's just that in order to move quickly and not hastily, you need to have steps written out. You have to know the method, the condition, critical path, the contingencies of what you need to do. I think people overcomplicate this topic. I reduced maybe 6 or 7 software subscriptions down to a few. So, like ClickUp is a godsend for me, probably one of their biggest unofficial reps. We're also a venture partner with them with all of our companies, and having a unified workspace and where AI is passively integrated rather than a separate tool you need to access allows people to be more productive. And I'm a big fan of the entire Google workspace environment and utilizing a lot of features people don't really use out of the box. And it takes time, or you might need to hire a resource if you're not proficient. But I wake up every morning, I don't even check my inbox. I talk to my AI. So it's a completely different model. Lastly, your contracts need to be bulletproof and your engagement terms need to be incredibly clear. With clarity comes certainty. When you're certain about something, something becomes clear. So balancing that every day and every action, in every email and every meeting kind of keeps me grounded, humbled, and focused on the goal.
Nice. I like that. And I think obviously we're all kind of attempting to use AI in specific ways and really sort of use a tool to work for us, not necessarily against us, but at the same time, not using AI in a way to where it's like harmful. Because obviously, if you try to automate parts of the business, then it's not going to do well, especially with copy, templates, things like that. It comes across as very much AI oriented and
Mhm.
everything under the sun in that way. So, in terms of AI within the company, what are some ways you guys are currently utilizing AI? Because right now with us, we're utilizing AI to get smart at building templates for obviously specific copy or converting messaging. So it's
Mm,
almost like we're teaching the AI to prompt itself to make an AI to actually be able to fulfill for that. So that's like always a work in progress. Then we're having models that are comparing each other to the AI and then to human and the conversion there. And then as soon as the AI surpasses the human, that's when like obviously things get really good. But then obviously when you use that full time. So how are you guys kind of going about like transferring AI into the business and utilizing it?
first to comment on how you're applying AI. I feel that being aware of how to use it as a tool, right? I made a caricature a while ago about, people think AI is a Terminator, and at this time, it's really just a computer version of a power drill. If you could build houses with a power drill and you know how to use it versus a screwdriver, you get a lot more done at a higher quality. So it's learning how in your life it could be applied well. And I encourage people just to really know their business and the processes and the systems behind it, not necessarily on a programming level. And that lets you feel confident in deploying different algorithm tools. For us, um, I've been in machine learning in the business systems side since 2016. I launched a AI archival system in 2019, which is a really big pain point in clinical development. What I learned was at that time, people were afraid of AI replacing people. And now they're fulfilling that prophecy to some degree, right? Um, at InoSwift as a studio in that kind of venture model, we use AI the most in due diligence. I have multiple agents running on a situational awareness context, and they're doing research and analyzing risk and underwriting and seeing what kind of paths and offers we could propose to them based on our criteria. That's huge because you wouldn't traditionally need a big four consultant or very experienced investment banker analysts to drive that kind of confidence, but being able to translate it using agents has been helpful. Second, I don't do a lot online. All my agents are offline or on a private server. With the advent of chat, GPT for all, liquid AI, you can have your own foundational models. You don't need a massive throughput of computer power. And whether I'm on a plane or at home, I can ask very deep thoughts. So I think again, it's more research and due diligence where I've seen the most use specifically with AI. Now, to comment on maybe two of our organizations using AI, I'm one of the co-founders and board member of N1 AI. It's a global collective, and as everyone keeps talking about this topic, you lose the human in it, right? You're talking to the chat delivery system, and it's some robot telling you, "It's my pleasure to serve you today," but you're just annoyed that food's an hour late. So we're going to see a revival, I think, of human intellect, like a renaissance between people on communicating more effectively and more emotionally connected. I'm really excited for that because we're kind of seeing the roughest parts of AI and especially in marketing and social media. So N1 AI is a global collective of elite on, enterprise AI architects, machine learning experts from some of the biggest firms and brands. And we come together with this unique mission that you're N of one, right? You're not me, I'm not you. And you got to keep the human involved in all of it. So instead of laying off people, how can we restructure them? How can we reapply their interests and skills into a fulfilling life that's also productive? Lastly, I mentioned AI and drug discovery. Now, there's probably 200 companies out there or more saying that claim. Well, what we did, we spent a year and a half training a quantum computer using our own GPT that we designed just to understand quantum chemistry. And that unique difference versus being trained on like literature data, meaning there's tons of medical publications and stuff like things like ChatGPT sort cites to you when you talk to it. We don't touch any of that. Everything we touch is just hard physics. So I think the best benefits of machine learning and AI to sum it up are when a domain expert, right, is building something specifically for their company, their tool, their industry use case. Those people will oftentimes still, even with super intelligence, make it more effective.
Definitely, yeah. So utilizing it to build itself smarter. So
Mhm.
sort of it's like obviously machine learning, but on a different level because it's almost like we have to give AI its brain to think on its own to do the task that we want instead of always having to kind of give it a certain instruction and then go from there. Because obviously the more information you give it, the better it is, especially with even basic tools like Claude, to where in the instructions you can obviously add any sort of video asset or company asset or anything, and it's its own way of natively thinking about your company in its own way without having to always be like, hey, this is what we do, this is what we do, this is what we do. Just upload everything and everything's in its brain. So definitely um marketplace is shifting a lot towards that. I'm seeing, and a lot of good stuff is coming from that as well. So that's great. That kind of initially wraps up some of my questions that I had so far. Do you have anything you'd like to obviously add or um, talk
Yeah, I want
about?
to ask you a couple of questions. I mean, you've been doing a few of these interviews, and you do quite a bit in marketing and very successful at email marketing. So kudos. But I wanted to see, do you fear that, since AI at its core is a statistical model, right? It's a problem, like it's saying, what's the probability if I type the word Alex, it's thinking Alexander Dugom, Alexander Hamilton, Alexander the Great. Obviously, I'm a much lower probability than those two. Do you fear that AI, especially in a social media marketing sense, is going to cause a convergence of thought rather than a diversity of thought? You know, a lot of times we would think AI is going to give us a hidden emergent conclusion we didn't know, right? But a lot of times it's being convergent. So, like, what is the right message, right? Versus creating new ideas. So, I guess in terms of marketing, do you think it's gonna stick around the way it is for the long term? Do you fear that things are gonna continue to converge?
In the sense that like the marketing initiatives and strategies that are working right now won't work in 5 or 10 years.
Exactly, and if everyone's using similar tools and it's like, "Give me the best message for this audience," then it's all gonna eventually have the highest confidence in one certain message, and everyone's gonna have the same answer. So it's like, if you're talking to an AI 20 years from now, it's only gonna give you one version of a news story.
Yeah, well, I think companies always have initiatives and companies always have um, pain points and things like that. And when you reach out to a specific company, obviously, I think AI will get better in the space, not to degrade it, but to actually grow, because I think we'll be able to target things a lot better, whether it's emails or calls or whatever it is. You're able to speak more to the business owner because you can use AI to enrich specific parts of data, and it's much more relevant to the prospect. So, if anything, the marketplace will get more crowded. It is every single day, but 90% of the marketers out there will be using AI in the basic way. Templates, copy, basic lead list sourcing, basic messaging. But the 20% or 10% that actually end up using AI to enrich the data fully and to like use it for signal intent and to approach decision maker where something just happened the previous day in the company will blow people's minds because that decision maker will think how did you even see this? This is something that just happened internally. How did this even happen? But in reality, if it was internal or it was posted by the company or something, the AI was actually able to bring out that signal intent and then use it in the messaging. So I think go 80/20. Just like the internet marketing space and things like that. Like when the dot-com bubble burst, obviously there were few people that became millionaires overnight by just creating a simple landing page and like a www dot, right?
Oh,
And then
absolutely.
obviously, that's not as easy to do right now. You can't do that um, in that sense, but now you can drive paid traffic to your website and still make 7, 8 figures with a landing page, with content, paid ads, SEO, things like that. So there's always a way to do it. It'll just change.
It's always gonna be changing, and I think the 80/20 rule is gonna persist in many ways, or even, a slightly different ratio, 90/10, because, like, today, the best salesmen know if their customer actually needs their product or service, not trying to convince them you need blue shoes, right? So I think using that high signal intent data, from what I understood from you, more effectively rather than templates
Absolutely.
is a oh, it's funny in all of these tools and all these ads and everything, all the conferences I've been to, all of the strategic partnerships, email still is king, for me at least.
Yeah,
It's just you know how to communicate and you know who's the right customer. It that relationship just is supreme.
true. And what we're doing as well is we're tacking on phone too. So if there's a certain intent from the email that is replied interestedly, then what I think where the marketplace is going, especially with AI,
Mhm.
is AI will get really good at calling. AI will sound like humans and AI will be better than humans at calling, and people cannot tell the difference over the phone. That's a fact. That will happen within the next couple of years. I truly believe
The
that.
first happened. I had a call the other day and I just could not believe that it wasn't a human. So I even like tested it by cursing at it, and it just had so much emotional inflection that I just indistinguishable from reality. You're right. It's
Exactly.
I can't imagine what's going to happen in a few years.
Yeah. So that mixed with a hyper targeted email within a rich list is, I mean, you just can't get more relevant than that unless you walk up to their front door in their house and tell them. But like that's not really feasible. So yeah, I think that's where it's going. But yeah,
Last thing, people who are traditional professionals, whether you're in medicine, marketing, or manufacturing, they're going to end up becoming premium artists, so to speak. If the status quo is everyone gets medicine done through an AI and a machine, there's always going to be people out there that want to talk to a human, right? And that's going to be more of a premium likely. So I'm worried also that yes, AI is out there, it's accessible, but getting the same standard of service and care and is going to become less accessible. Um, it's a really interesting time overall. I'm overall bullish. I wouldn't drop my things and just study AI all day, but again, if my closing message really is, if you want to be effective in marketing and sales, you need to understand your industry, your domain, your line of business first, because domain expertise is how you shape your AI, whether you're prompt engineering or making your own model.
definitely. Yeah, I agree. Learning the fundamentals and really excelling at that too is huge. So I appreciate you jumping on, Alexander, today, taking some time out of your day to be on here and looking forward to staying in touch and everything like that.
Yeah, likewise, Patrick. Thanks for the opportunity.
Of
See you soon.
course.